Hi there, I'm Rob Vlock, author of the Sven Carter series of middle grade novels, Sven Carter and the Trash Mouth Effect, which is the first book in the series, and Sven Carter and the Android Army, which is book 2. These are funny, fast-paced novels that I really hope you'll enjoy, so please check them out and let me know what you think. I'm speaking to you today from my writing studio, also known as the Shoebox, to share with you what I've learned over the years as an author. I've developed this series of videos to help kids in classrooms everywhere understand the craft of writing, to help them learn to love writing, and to become better writers. So whatever you do, be sure to stay tuned until the end of this video for a hands-on exercise you can use to get a better grasp of the topic we're talking about today. What is that topic? I'm so glad you asked. Today we're going to take a look at point of view. Point of view. Point of... There were supposed to be words that would come up when I said point of view, and it was going to look really awesome and dramatic. All right, never mind. We'll just move on. We should talk first about what point of view is for an author. What to keep in mind when you're writing. And point of view is something that... Wait a minute. Did you just see? I thought I saw... Oh, never mind. Listen, point of view is all about who's speaking, who's doing the telling in your story. And point of view, you may have heard this, comes in a couple of different commonly used flavors, each of which can change how your story feels. There's first person, which tells the story in the voice of one of the characters. You can always tell a first person narrative when you see lots of words like I, me, and we. If we were writing in first person and wanted to describe a character running, for example, it might look a little like this. I ran. And there you can see that's me, Rob. If I'm the main character of the story, I'd be telling it I ran. Now, Sven Carter is told in the first person, which is why it starts out this way. I'm going to read a little bit from the book so you can see how it sounds in first person. Wind whooshed past my ears with a low, ominous moan as I pumped my legs and picked up speed. My heart pounded against my ribcage and a drop of nervous sweat trickled down the back of my neck. Time ground to a crawl as I closed in on the Reckinator. Now you can hear all those words I mentioned, I, me, my, and you can tell that Sven Carter, there he is there, is the one who's telling the story in this case. Now, there's also third person, which is a different point of view, which tells the story in a voice that doesn't belong to one of the characters. It uses an outside narrator who tells you what's going on. You can usually tell a third person narrator when you see lots of words like she, he, they in the telling of the story. If we were writing in third person and we wanted to describe a character running, it would look a little more like this. She ran, and you can see that is not Rob, by the way, but she ran. That is a third person way of talking about someone running. Now, one of the examples of third person writing that I personally really love is this book, The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. It's told in third person, and I'm going to read a little passage for you here from the beginning of the book and give you a really good example of third-person storytelling. He pulled his large golden teddy bear into the corner of the crib. Then, holding the railing in his tiny hands, he put his foot onto the bear's lap, the other foot on the bear's head, and he pulled himself up into a standing position, and then he half climbed, half toppled over the railing and out of the crib. Now, that's told from the third-person point of view about the boy, who's the main character in the story, but he's not telling the story. You get the information about him and about what's going on from the narrator, and the narrator can tell you some information that the boy couldn't possibly know. Now, why would you use one point of view over another? Well, First person can give you a really great view of what's going on in one character's head, in your main character's head. Everything is firsthand, the thoughts, the emotions, everything going on, you get a direct view of. And I chose first person for Sven Carter because I thought it would be really great to hear the story of a boy who finds out he's really an android programmed to wipe out humanity from inside the head of the android who's programmed to wipe out humanity himself. So by choosing to write Sven in first person, I'm letting the reader live in Sven's shoes. I can slowly reveal what's going on in Sven's life and really show it. Show the process of discovery that Sven is going through rather than using a third-person narrator to tell the reader about it. On the other hand, a third-person narrative can be really useful when you're doing a lot of world building, like in fantasy novels or science fiction novels, where you have to do a lot of explaining about the rules of that world or the universe that you're creating. And you really can't have a character do that in a believable way. Or if you want to be able to tell your reader what's going on in other characters' heads other than the main character, or what's happening somewhere else in the story where your main character may not be. So this brings us to today's writing exercise, which I've come up with to show how changing the point of view can really change the way your story feels. So get your pencils ready, because here's today's exercise. Take a third-person narrative and rewrite it as a first-person narrative using one of the characters as narrators. Let me show you what I mean. I've taken a different paragraph from the Graveyard book, which, as I mentioned, is written in third person, and I've rewritten it from the main character's perspective. Now, here's what the original scene sounds like that I've chosen to rewrite. The great dog-like head lowered towards him, and for one mad, fear-filled moment he thought she was going to take a bite out of him, but her tongue licked the side of his face affectionately. So that's how Neil Gaiman wrote it. And I'm not trying to compare myself or one-up Neil Gaiman because, frankly, he's a fantastic writer. I recommend this book highly. But I've rewritten that scene to show you what it might sound like in first person. The huge dog-like creature lowered its head toward my face. In an instant, my knees turned to jello and a cold shiver of fear ran down my spine. She's going to take a bite out of me, a frantic voice cried out inside my head. She's going to eat me up. But she didn't eat me up. Her tongue darted out and licked the side of my face affectionately. Yuck. Now you can see the differences there. The fear that this character experiences feels much more immediate when we hear it in his voice. And we can really hear his thought process. We get a sense of what he's actually feeling rather than being told what he's feeling. On the other hand, he wouldn't be able to tell us about things that are happening inside that dog-like creature's head, for example. Also, you're sort of limited when you use first person in the language you use. In this case, it's a small boy, a fairly young boy, so he wouldn't be able to use the full vocabulary that Neil Gaiman's narrator might use throughout the book. So when you use a first person narrator, you always need to be sure you tell the story in a way that fits with the character, him or herself. With a third person narrator, you don't have that limitation. You can write it any way you want. You can use any words you want. So that's about it for today's video. I hope you'll try out that exercise, see what you can do in taking a third-person narrative and changing it into a first-person narrative. And once you're done with that exercise, what you really should be doing is keep reading, keep writing, and make sure you always keep it fun. I'm Rob Vlock, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.